Please note that as of now, you can support the channel by becoming member using the join button under the video. Members can get access to special members-only badges, emojis, posts, polls, short videos and long-format videos. Thanks in advance. Now, let's play the video. Hi there, thanks for watching. Today I will be responding to a video of a Christian apologist called Tim, also known as Red Pen Logic. Many of you will know him because he is a fairly popular Christian apologist with over 150,000 subscribers at this point in time. Although Tim claims to correct flawed arguments with clear logic, I think most of his videos contain a lot of nonsense, as is the case with the video I'm responding to today, which is called "Is God an Extortionist? Atheist Logic Debunked." Spoiler alert, yes, the God of the Bible of course is an extortionist. That is, if he were to exist. And no, Tim did not debunk anything. Let's have a look at Tim's video. Join me, shall you?
It's not really free will if God says, worship me and obey all my commands, or else I'm going to kill you and then torture you for all of eternity. That's called extortion.
Yes, the classic God is an extortionist argument.
Yes, it's a classic argument because it's so damn true and so damn good. And because you Christian apologists only give very weak, nonsensical and even rather disturbing rebuttals to it, as you are going to demonstrate in just a few seconds from now.
Let's break this one down because it's a mess. First, extortion is when someone forces another person to give them money, property, or services through threats, intimidation, or coercion.
Well, almost right. Money, property, and services are merely examples of the benefits that an extortionist attempts to gain from his or her victims. Most definitions of extortion that I find on the internet mention similar or different examples. The benefit for the extortionist can also be cooperation, influence, silence, access, privileges, etc. The main principle of extortion is that the extortionist demands a benefit from his or her victims and will enforce this by threatening the victim.
Is that what God is doing? No.
Yes, that is exactly what your God is doing. That is, if he were to exist. He demands benefits like worship, love, and commitment. And he enforces his demands by applying a threat of violence, which is being tormented for eternity. So, yes, your God, if he were to exist, is an extortionist.
If someone freely chooses to reject God, the source of life and goodness, and break his commandments, that's their choice.
No, that's totally wrong and even a bit distasteful. If your God were to exist, and if he demands from us that we worship him, and if rejecting his demands leads to negative consequences that he designed himself, then the choice, of course, is not a free choice. The choice is a manipulated choice, orchestrated by your God. A free choice would be this. Look, I'm this God, and I created two places, A and B. Both places are comfortable, entertaining, free, wealthy, healthy, clean, pleasant, interesting, etc. The only difference is that in A, you can hang out with me because I will be there. And B is also a great place, but I won't be hanging around there. That's the only difference. So you can pick A or B, that's up to you. Or if you don't like both A and B, just let me know because I'm God and I can make any place you want just by talking it into existence. Just read the Bible. That is free choice. Limiting our choice to only two options, one of them being nice and the other one being horrible, because your God designed that place to be horrible, is not a free choice. That would be a choice that is highly manipulated to favor one of those choices over the other. The problem here seems to be that many Christians, and certainly most Christian apologists, are so much indoctrinated into obedience that they don't understand the concept of freedom anymore, which is terrifying. Your idea of freedom is dictatorship to those who do not subscribe to your religion, because this goes way deeper. Not only does your God threaten us into submission with this whole heaven and hell stuff, he also has a history of excessive violence. If your Bible book were to be true, your God has demonstrated that he doesn't care about human life whatsoever. Already in the first chapter of the Bible book, your God just wipes out humanity by drowning almost the entire world population because some people did not obey him. He even drowned all the children, babies and unborn babies, making your God the biggest mass abortionist in history. So much for your God being pro-life. So if he were to exist, and if the Bible book stories were to be true, that is the main message your God gave to future generations. If you do something I don't like, I will drown you. I will drown your entire family. I will drown your entire town. I will drown your entire planet. As of that moment, any choice this God is offering us is no longer a free choice. It will always be a forced choice, totally dominated by the threat of your God crushing all of us, because some of us didn't tick the right boxes. Nobody wants to be the cause of all of that. So no choice the God of the Bible will offer can ever be a free choice. So don't tell me that choosing or not choosing to worship your God, if he were to exist, is a free choice. It's not. It's a choice enforced by the threat of violence.
But choices have consequences. That's how reality works.
No, that is how your God works. He designed the consequences, didn't he? He is the almighty creator, remember? That's what you believe. So the entire set of rules that we should obey according to your Bible storybook, the types of consequences for not obeying those rules, and the way those consequences are executed, they are all the reality that your God chose to be the reality. That is what you should believe as a Christian. But reality does not need to work like that at all. You see, you can worship me if you want to, but if you don't, I will not choose to drown your entire village. If you choose not to worship me, I will tell you, great, no problem, have a nice day. Let me know if you have second thoughts. Your God could have chosen to behave in that exact same tolerant and friendly manner as I just demonstrated. But he doesn't. Your God likes to uphold a system of eternal punishment. That is apparently what he prefers.
Just as breaking human laws has consequences, breaking God's law has consequences too. That's not extortion, that's justice.
No, that's not justice. Justice is when suspects are being charged, prosecuted and punished if they turn out to be guilty in a transparent way by independent entities that were appointed according to the rule of law that was agreed upon by those we democratically have voted for. That is justice. Nobody but himself appointed your God, if he were to exist, as a lawmaker, a judge, and an executioner. That is what dictatorship is. So you're confusing justice with dictatorship.
It's like if a mafia boss threatens to burn down my store unless I make payments. Would I be committing arson on myself when I refuse to pay up? No, of course not.
The mafia boss analogy is a bad analogy. A mafia boss demands unjust payments and punishes innocent people to maintain power.
And that is exactly what your God does. He demands unjust worship from people because how is it just for your God to demand anything from anyone? Being the creator of everything does not give you ultimate dictatorial power to demand whatever you want. Why would that be the case? Your God, if he were to exist, created us as human beings with their own feelings, their own ideas and their own desires to lead their own lives and make their own free choices. At least I've always thought that that is what Christians believe. Guess what? Regardless of there being a God or not, that is exactly what billions of people subsequently would like to do. Only a minority of the world population apparently wants to be your God's servant. The other 70% of the world population is not interested in your God's demands. So your God should just leave them alone. His demands are nothing but bullying towards the creatures that he decided himself to make helpless when faced with your God's outbursts of anger and violence. If your God really had balls, he would have given us a set of superpowers to kick his ass whenever he confronts us. But he didn't do that. He deliberately chose to make us weak compared to himself so that he could enjoy the ultimate power of a dictator without any threat from his creations. That's not really brave, is it? And he even punishes innocent children. If your God were to exist, and he is all-powerful, as Christians seem to believe, your God doesn't even have the excuse of wanting to stay in power. So perhaps he's just punishing innocent children because he likes doing so. That's even worse than the mafia.
Here's a better analogy. Let's say you rob a bank and you get caught.
No, that's a terrible analogy. You're either dishonest or have no clue how analogies work. Your God, if he were to exist, has many laws, the 10 Commandments being the most famous. Luckily, the 10 Commandments contain thou shalt not unalive other people and thou shalt not steal. But much of the rest of the 10 Commandments is pretty much nonsense, failing to keep the Sabbath day holy. Off. I can decide for myself how to organize my own time, using God's name in vain. What a bunch of bullshit. If your God doesn't want to be the subject of cursing, he should refrain from drowning babies and children. And then the biggest sin of them all for this supposedly loving Christian God, rejecting the Christian God or worshipping other gods, blasphemy. To make that the worst offense of your punishment system is total intolerance and bigotry. Leave people alone. If they want to worship another god or no god at all, leave them be. Only insane dictators demand this from their flock, and you want to compare that to robbing a bank? That's a ridiculous and horrible comparison.
You stand before the judge and he sentences you to prison. Now, is the judge at fault for your imprisonment? No. The criminal's actions led to the imprisonment.
That is because in your stupid example, the subject is robbing a bank. Let's make the actual comparison here. Let's imagine you do not worship a specific judge, and then you stand before this judge, and he sentences you to prison for not worshipping him. Now, is that judge at fault for your imprisonment? Yes, he is, because not worshipping a judge or anyone else should not be a crime. Worshipping or not worshipping should be a personal and free choice that is not to be part of any punishment system.
In the same way, rejecting God isn't like refusing to pay a mobster. No, it's guilty sinners rejecting the pardon God freely offers and accepting their just punishment instead.
There you go, the main problem of Christianity in a nutshell. You worship a God who makes not worshipping him punishable. The core principle of Christianity revolves around forcing people into obedience by threatening them with violent punishment. Promoting that kind of medieval repression, like you're doing with your videos, is creating and maintaining a constant divide in society that is continuously putting people's freedoms and well-being under pressure.
God's laws aren't arbitrary. They reflect his nature, and his nature's good. He judges sin because he's just, but he also provides a pardon because he's loving.
Your God's rules are totally arbitrary. They only represent your God's own personal opinion and nothing else. The rules of your God, if he were to exist, have never been put to a vote and have never been revised in any transparent, independent, and objective way. It doesn't get more arbitrary and subjective than the rules of your God. And your God being good and loving, you gotta be kidding there, right? In the Bible storybook, right off the bat, your God voluntarily chooses to drown the entire world population in a planned and systematic manner, including children, babies, and unborn babies. That is mass murder. But your God did not have to make that choice. He's all-powerful, remember, that's what you believe. He could have made a million other choices that would not include such an unimaginable amount of suffering. So, drowning babies and children was your God's personal preference, which is totally awful and disgusting.
God doesn't force anyone to love him.
Which is total nonsense, as I have demonstrated in great detail. In short, and as a conclusion of this video, one of the first major interventions of your God towards humanity was drowning all of them, including babies and children, because some people did not obey your God. As of that moment, any proposal or choice your God presents us is a choice enforced by a constant threat of violence that will always be lurking in the background and influencing our decisions because of the fear that your God might wipe us out again. Your God, if he were to exist, eliminated any remains of free and independent choices. In the Genesis chapter of your Bible storybook, your God did not give us free will. He took it away from us, just like any other dictator. Thanks for watching.